Intuitive Academy podcast. Say that 6 times really fast. I am one of your hosts, Tay, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Petra Costa from When Magic Awakes. And you can find us on the Empowered Intuitive Academy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, all of the social media pages. And today you might notice that we're dressed up for this episode because we are chatting about aliens. How close have our encounters been? And what was that?
I just don't even know how to start with this one, but go, sorry.
No, I mean, I'm feeling the same. I mean, UFOs, alien encounters, all of that is just become so sensational and like mockery, and there's so much out there, especially since 2015 when they released all the public files about supposed UFO data that they've been collecting in America alone over the years since the 1950s. And then we've got like the whole other end of the spectrum with conspiracy theories and stuff that just does not make sense as much as people would like to think it makes sense. So
no, and there's a lot of people on this bandwagon at the moment. It's becoming a huge thing. And I know I've said it before, but I'm going to have to say it again. It seems that this need to have a unified theory around our spirituality and our science.
Yes.
We're just literally like spinning and drawing everything in. And we're not really worrying whether it makes much sense or not. If we can just get someone, when we tell them it, to nod at us and go, oh, wow, that sounds profound. It's often running. People are often running with this stuff. So we'll have to try to see if we can sort of like debunk a little bit and also be amazed by some of the things that are amazing, because there is some amazing stuff in here.
There is some really cool stuff. Admittedly, the topic of aliens is one where I'm like on the fence about. I believe they exist. I just don't think it's to the extent that we think they do, or in the capacity that we think they do.
Yep.
And by we, I mean the people who are totally into this shit. And so I suppose we should start with some of our, I want to say recent, but it's not really that recent because it's about 1950s onwards where we get this mass incursion of just like UFO sightings and alien abductions and encounters. And so, I mean, maybe we should just outline what a fucking alien is to begin with.
I must say, I haven't got a definition in front of me, but I would assume it would be something that didn't originate on this earth.
Extraterrestrial.
A being that didn't originate here.
I
started looking, same deal. I started looking at UFO reportings throughout history, and they're not called UFOs anymore. They're called something else, but I don't care. I'm going with UFOs. Yeah, they're not called that because that was like an unidentified flying object, and then they've now got another name.
Okay.
Stop it.
Stop.
People. We don't have to
rename. What's wrong with UFO?
We don't have to start renaming everything. But do you know what? Apart from the fact that, and we'll go into that separately, that beings from the stars or from the heavens literally go back into every country's first written words. That they talk about that. In terms of actually UFO sightings, the first one I've got is from 1450 BC in ancient Egypt, where there was a person who wrote down the fact that he had seen a star that came down and set fire to his adversaries. So he was at war at the time.
Right.
He was trying to conquer another country, and it wasn't going so well for him. And he says a star came down, decimated his enemies, and he was all good and everything was right in the world. That comes down to 1450 BC.
Right.
So, and there's little ones like that, just little mentions, 218 BC, where there was another war, and they saw phantom ships had been seen gleaming in the sky. So what I found most notable about all of these different things that came up, and they're just over and over talking about basically something coming down from the sky, whether it's a ship from the sky or a light from the sky. But they often come down when there is a war. In either
Yes. Yeah.
and not so much just when there's war times.
Yeah.
They come down at the scene of the battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So even in 73 BC, a Roman army commander was again battling someone, and the sky burst asunder, and a huge flame-like body was seen to fall between the two armies. And again, he reports that object looked like a wine jar. I suggest that he might have been in the wine jar. He might have imbibed a bit too much in said wine jar. But it just found it really interesting to me, 65 AD, when there was a Roman Jewish war, chariots were seen hurtling through the clouds. And they're always coming in to put an end to these wars that are going on. And I found that was really interesting, that when you look at the ones that were, around in BC or early AD, they're all war-related entries. And I suppose not everyone's writing down their life and times of what they're doing back then.
Yeah.
So it would
Yeah.
be the people in the armies and the generals, or the people, the scribes that are taking down the information from that period. But they were all, hurtling down through the crowds. Ships with crews were seen in the air. All of these things were occurring, and all were in a warlike setting.
And that's very interesting that you note those sort of events back in antiquity, because back then they wouldn't have seen that as ETs or aliens. They probably would have saw that as like gods or deities or beings. We've got references, and people have tried to make links to aliens and like angels and even demons and stuff throughout, like in biblical records, saying that they came down and they would intercede on the mortal people's behalfs and stuff like that. And there's lots of theories out there that around the concept of ancient aliens being, that the gods and deities from our mythologies were actually these ancient aliens that descended to Earth. And and some of them go as far as to say like the original ancient aliens were the Anunnaki, which are the Assyrian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian pantheon. And the leader of this Anunnaki was the god Enlil. And you've got Enki, and a lot of this evidence of ancient aliens is taken from the cuneiform tablets, which were the earliest form of writing within Mesopotamian Sumerian society. And they're like, and if anyone's seen the little wedge-shaped inscriptions where it talks about these gods descending from the heavens to earth, and bringing agriculture and bringing order. And if you look at every sort of mythology, it's kind of a similar precipice of like these gods came to the land and then they would share their gifts and knowledge with the people. And in that way, it's given credence to an ancient alien theory. But where it goes awry for me is where they try to take archaeological evidence and poorly translated inscriptions from cuneiform tablets and things and plan it as concrete evidence for aliens being these deities. Even as far as to go, oh well, this is as close as the encounters get, right? We bred with them. So the Anunnaki, and this is all a theory put forward by a man named Zachariah Sitchin, who I will just add did not have any qualifications or anything. This is just theories that he got coming from reading this cuneiform not very well, according to a lot of Issaurian, blah blah. I can't say the word. Assyrianologists.
Okay. Yeah.
Assyrianologists, people who studied the cuneiform tablets for a living. But he proposed this ancient alien theory that Anunnaki came to Earth. They genetically engineered humans to mine gold and to be their servants pretty much, because they were doing everything themselves and decided, oh, this is shit, let's just make a subservient race. And that supposedly they were breeding with us, which created Nephilims, which is come from the old Hebrew Nephil, to fall, so to descend. And giants are tied into that as well. And they use like the examples of giants from Norse mythology, Celtic mythology, even angels in biblical texts to justify this hybridization of aliens and humans. And the only concrete evidence that they have of that is elongated skulls in human archaeological finds of burials. And one instance of this was a queen, an Egyptian queen, and her name was Queen Puabi. And she was found in 1927 in one of the ancient archaeological sites. And she was found with an elongated skull. And to debunk that theory, because when I think elongated skull, I think of when babies come out of the birth canal and their skulls are stretched, right?
Cone
like,
heads.
Cone heads. Think of cone heads, like the movie.
I had a cone head.
Yeah, cone heads. My nephew was a cone head. Unfortunately for me, that did not happen. But anyway, so I'm like, so cone heads. There has been an ancestral ancient practice of binding heads, much like the binding of feet in China and Japan, because they liked small petite feet in women, gave them a stature. There is, and Hippocrates, can't talk today. Hippocrates actually recorded this in 400 BCE, that there were people from Southwest Asia who came through and brought this tradition of head binding with them. That spread throughout the Europes, through Rome, even Germanic tribes did it. The Huns were notorious for it. And even into Egypt, the royalty or people of high status would bind the heads of their babies, because that's when the skull is most pliable, with wood and binding cloth, until they were about 6 months, to give them this permanently elliptical cone-shaped skull. Because and they also did it in Peru as well, but it was more flat, because it was a sign of stature or a sign of position. And
But we've seen this in lots of cultures.
Yeah.
Not just the binding of the feet. It's
Yeah.
even the putting the rings in the lips and
and
we
the
body morph
exactly of the neck. So we body morph traditionally. So for that to be concrete evidence of ancient aliens mating with human beings,
no,
it's not.
It proves absolutely nothing.
Exactly. So
I must be. I find it more compelling that virtually every ancient text has something within it that either, depending on what view you look at it, can either be seen as a deity or it can be seen as someone from the stars.
Yeah.
Because it does get difficult when you're translating them. If something from the stars or something from the heavens, there's not much difference in that.
No.
It's not much difference. That's open to interpretation. So,
you've got, I find like the star people, the Anasazi people in North America, they heavily believe in the star people, but they more see them as their ancestors. There's different instances where they believe in star people, and I can't find my notes on them right now, but it is cross-cultural.
Yeah, exactly. And what we can say, without a shadow of a doubt, you draw your own conclusions as to what's caused it and what's gone on with it. But we can say, without shadow of a doubt, there seems to be a belief that was which was global, in relation to something coming from either the stars or the heavens,
or even the underworld. Even the underworld. Yeah, which I found fascinating, which tied back into this Anunnaki being ancient aliens, because it was they came from the heavens, but they also resided in the underworld, and there was a system of deities being like we've got chthonic deities in traditional mythology which reside in the underworld. They are more shadow in nature and things like that. In they're related to the night, and then you've got the deities of the heavens and the stars and like above the earth, so that above and below really, and they've tied that into like ancient alien theories as well. And there's lots of instances that they relate back to through encounters where people have gone under the earth and they have met with alien like creatures. And admittedly, some of these instances to me don't scream alien, but I mean, let's go through the different encounters and just see.
Yeah, well, I suppose the thing when it becomes there, though, what does an alien look like? Well, we don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So whether an alien just happens to look like exactly what we have depicted our angels to be, might just be a coinky dink, or it might be a crossover.
Yeah.
I did take the time to read both the Emerald Tablets and the Emerald Tablet recently, based on a suggestion from someone that I should give it a go.
Yeah.
And I would say without a doubt there is a direct, especially in the Emerald Tablets, which was supposed to be written by the Atlantean, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
There is no doubt. Now, I'm reading a translation from many languages that have been translated into English.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even based on some of the things that are said within it, it'd be very, very difficult to not see alien concepts, because it does talk about ships, it does talk about stars together, so a starship. It'd be very difficult to not see that that's more of a alien link than more than a deity link. It talks about deities in there, but they're spoken about in a completely different way. So if I can go by the translations I've been given, and I actually then did look further into alternate translations of it, it's supporting the same concept of ancient aliens. Now, people have gone crazy. A guy called Billy Carson has gone really crazy on the Emerald Tablets in terms of writing compendiums to go with it, to explain it, etc. And I've listened to a lot of his work. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on every podcast he can possibly get onto. And he's really chasing the unified theory. There's no doubt about it. He's chasing the concept that spirituality and science go hand in hand, and he's putting together all of these proofs of it. And I've read it, and dude, I don't know where you're getting some of these lines from. They're not in there. And I actually also, when I was reading the Emerald Tablet, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is a whole podcast on its own.
Absolutely.
But when I actually looked into it, and it's only like 7 or 8 stanzas, hardly any words in it. Like I reckon maybe 1,000 words max. And I read all of the different interpretations through the great minds through history that had decided to look at those 7 stanzas and have, it might be more, but because there's 7A and 7B, whatever. What they get from it, from like 5 lines of text, and I'm sitting there going, I just thought they were talking about electricity. And then they've come out with this whole alchemical, thing, because they're looking at it through a lens. They're looking at it through the lens that they think it's a Hermetic text. They think it relates to alchemy. Therefore, they look through it for that lens. And it's not compelling. It's absolutely compelling. But I could also see if someone was looking at it as in proof of God, that they would be able to prove God.
That's the point. And we were talking about this pre-chat. Like, you really do, and I think this has been a recurring theme in the last couple of episodes. Like, your lens of belief really plays an impact on how you see and interpret evidence. So if anyone, and especially with this ancient alien stuff, like, they are just so gung-ho to make archaeological evidence go in their way. Like, and here's an example, right, that I was listening to these Assyrianologists. They were talking about Zachariah Sitchin's mistranslations of the cuneiform tablets, and and then his interpretations relating to how he thinks spacecrafts and things are getting into these tablets, right? And he goes, there's an example where Inanna in the cuneiform is flying over a garden, and then she comes down to rest in the garden after, just doing a loop and surveying her lands and whatnot. And Zachariah Sitchin turns around and goes, well, since Inanna did not have wings, she must have had a spacecraft, because how else would she fly? And the Assyrianologist makes a point of, so the divine goddess of heaven who can walk through space-time, celestial being, couldn't possibly be able to fly without wings, so she must have a spacecraft. Like the logic.
I know the logic is just
so not there. The logic is not there.
It's just not there.
It's not there.
And that makes me laugh, only because when we go into the pyramids, some of the concepts around how the pyramids were built were around the fact of using electromagnetics to help things levitate. So like even in there, anyway, I'm going to go back. Let's go. So back when we're going through history, we've got, in 1561, I found a notable one where the residents of Nuremberg saw an aerial battle being fought above their town with large black triangular objects. They were seen to crash, but funnily enough, nothing was found. Okay. 1803, a Japanese local fisherman, saw something happening. He actually met with a woman, a beautiful young woman with red and white hair, dressed in strange clothes. He wasn't allowed to touch her, and she spoke in a language he's never heard before. That was in 1803. 1907, in the Ottoman Empire. Funnily enough, there's a war going on, a bit of a fight going on here, there, and everywhere. They see someone standing on a shiny object just levitating right there in front of them. Then a shiny object flew in front of us, stood suspended in the air for several minutes, and then disappeared. One thing we're noting about these apparent UFOs we're seeing, it's more the movement of them that is just something like we've never seen before, and that's the thing that gets in our heads and goes, yeah, that's just not right. Things in nature don't move that way. I would point out dragonfly. Like a dragonfly does move that way.
Yeah, literally.
We've all had a dragonfly fly in front of us and just hover there.
Yeah.
Hover there, and then just like literally
and just move.
Just goes wherever he wants. What I did like, it was in 1940, there was an unidentified object that was seen in the skies over Europe and the Pacific, and this was during World War II.
Yes.
Allied fighters saw it. Colourful balls of light were following their aircraft at high speeds. That was where the term Foo Fighters came from.
Really?
I did not know that.
That's new, yeah.
Yeah, so when they saw all of the lights, they called them Foo Fighters. So they encountered Foo Fighters in 1940.
That's cool.
1942, after the attack of Pearl Harbor, there was seen things were seen above Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So we're seeing all of these things that just seem to be happening around wartime, is what I kept seeing over and over again.
Yeah.
And in the 1942, it was just after the Japanese attack, radar stations picked up unidentified objects in the early morning.
Yeah.
Several hours, anti-aircraft artillery, they fired rounds and rounds and rounds at what they had deemed to be these objects that they'd seen flying over the area.
Yeah.
Basically, obviously, nothing came down. They had thought at the time, that was a lot of saying that the Soviet had some crazy missiles and everything that they'd never seen before. But these things were either moving so fast, so a fast flying rocket or missile shaped objects with or without wings, but they could either go really fast or really slow. And they were cigar-shaped objects, and they made a hissing sound as to when they moved around.
Well, the ones that I recorded, because I watched recently that Top Secret UFO Declassified, The Secrets Declassified, based on what was called Project Blue Book, which was established in the 1950s to just this increasing data coming around about spotting UFOs. And it was around that time the term UFO, unidentified flying object, was coined. That was happening more and more. And so Harry Truman the president of the time, he was like, well, this is kind of fucking weird. Let's just track it and see what happens. And so he authorized Project Blue Book to be born.
Yep.
And then they had different astronomers, scientists, people in the military, in the Air Force, in charge of this project, and they would go around and they would record people's sightings or
Yep.
occurrences with UFOs. And a lot of the time, as the project went on and on, the military was just trying to debunk more and more. And by the end of the project's run, at least 700 cases proved to be genuinely unexplainable and related to UFO activity. And a lot of them did report like they were cigar shaped. They would fly in formations. There was a massive sighting in Phoenix, Arizona, over Nevada in 1997, witnessed by hundreds of people, where there were just these objects flying in V shape. And the government was like, oh, no, it was just a military exercise. It was just orbs from the flares that were being used. But there were actually people among the witnesses, aerophysicists and whatnot, and aeronautic engineers being like, that is not man-made. They possibly can't fly at that speed. And there was one incident in the 60s, I believe, where a driver was driving along. Eddie Laxon, an electrician who worked at a nearby Shepherd Air Force Base, he was driving along, and all of a sudden there was a bright light in the middle of the road, and it was this 75-foot long, 12-foot wide, cigar-shaped craft. There was a human-looking person standing outside the craft, and he
I read about this one,
shining over it with a torch. But as soon as he realized that he was being watched, he went back into the craft, and the craft took off silently, and at the speed of light. And that was witnessed by truckers coming the other way. Like, just shit like that seems to be a recurring theme. And you got to wonder, like, okay, ancient aliens might be a bit far-fetched, but this UFO stuff, and especially even in the antiquity examples, where it's like the same triangular cigar shapes, the same form of movement, whatnot. Like, that has not changed.
And it's not as if this is just, an electrician or a farmer or whatever who wouldn't understand about the concept of how things travel. We've got, pilots, not only like one of the ones that was in the 1940s, just before the Blue Book stuff happened. He was able to track it. He tried to follow it using, the maths, just basic triangular mass. He was able to clock this thing at traveling at 2,700 kilometers an hour. Like it's just, he then goes on to watch them, and he says they moved in a diagonally stepped down echelon formation, stretching out over a distance he later calculated to be 5 miles. Like, this guy was just all over the numbers. But he's not just one. Then you've got another one where, again, the United States Army actually, and that was in the Roswell incident, where they actually announced that they'd found something. We finally captured and then they come out and they recant on that and say, no, it was a weather balloon. This is the thing. If I have all of these, I could go on. I've got, Captain Thomas Mantell in Kentucky, who, follows something that was traveling a ridiculous amount. He actually died because he was following the craft and he was zigzagging around following the craft in pursuit. And he then climbed to 7,600 meters and he blacked out of lack of oxygen. And then they're saying, oh, no, he was really pursuing a weather balloon. Now, like, dudes, we know who's on the other end of his thing going, yes, Thomas, I think it's a good idea. Keep going. Just keep following that. We need to know what's going on. And it's a weather balloon. Like, come on. And that's the thing where I get is that every explanation is ridiculous. And it just seems, if you don't want to believe in aliens, that's fine. But at least acknowledge the fact that these can't be explained.
Yeah.
We've got people, famous people, John Lennon, who, apparently saw them. We've got presidents of the United States that have
Yeah.
seen them. What I found interesting, and you were saying in the 1960s, is I actually found one that happened in Australia, in Melbourne,
Wow.
literally
Yeah.
like 20 minutes around the corner from here. And it was basically students and teachers at Westall High School, which is now called Westall Secondary College, saw a flying object flying over them. It was round with a dome top, grey and silver in colour. The object descended behind a row of trees. They then went to look where it was. They did not find the craft, but the where they had thought it was been, the grass had been flattened. Some people even report that it looked like it was burnt or boiled or pressed down. And this was hundreds of people from the school saw it. And you know what the likely explanation that came out in the newspapers of the time?
What?
Weather balloon.
Oh.
And it just so happens,
Okay. Yeah.
that after it happened,
Yeah.
and everyone was going to the area like, oh my goodness, we've got this UFO sighting. The landowner burned the field to discourage people from entering their property.
You know what we haven't even touched on at
But
all?
don't you think that's like a bit like a bit of a coincidence?
Yeah.
I own this land, and because there's people that you really think burning the block down is going to stop people
From
from coming
coming
and
to
visiting?
look.
Like,
Yeah.
if that does not sound like getting rid of evidence, I really, really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my other thing is, if we've got so many weather balloons up there, you'd think we'd better get a better read on the weather.
Yeah.
Like
Literally.
literally, what are
Literally.
we doing with all of this data?
Yeah. Yeah. Why
Anyway,
so many weather balloons? And why are they
well,
flying at like Mach 1 fucking jet speed?
anyway,
Because
what haven't we touched on?
we haven't even looked at crop circles.
No, I know. This
Crop
made me think of
circles.
that because they did not report seeing the same thing. And
Yeah.
one thing that I found that was interesting is when people, and I've read a lot of these in the last week,
Yeah.
people seem to have difficulty locking down the color, either the
Yeah.
color of the ship
Yeah.
or the color of the people that come out of it. That even
Yes.
multiple people have seen the same thing
Mm.
will have issue.
Yeah.
And there's even been a whole the human mind and the human people just puzzle me because there's so much talk
Yeah.
around that it's about white supremacist.
Oh
That the
God.
fact
Yeah.
that they've always got a pale skin, pale grey, or pale whatever,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's a supremacist movement. We do realize that there are things in nature that happen to be white,
Albino.
and there's
Yeah.
things in nature that happen to be black.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're not. They're not racist, and they haven't got an agenda.
No. No.
You know what I
No.
mean? So why on earth would the color of the aliens
But you bring up
have
a good point because what do we think aliens are, and what do we think they look like? And from a lot of encounters in abduction tales, it's the traditional green men or the grey men.
big
The
eyes, the
big
big praying
eyes.
mantis
Yes, they're
eyes?
either really tall or they're little with like frog fingers, and but then there's other
Yeah.
ones where they're like these beautiful light beings, or like
Ah, we
they're
all know they're scary ass when they come out there. They look like they've been in a different gravity
yeah.
environment, so they don't have the same
But there's
structure as
other
us.
ones that are like humanoid in nature or whatever, but
Yeah.
they're just slightly off, like they're making out to be us. And sometimes I read these encounters, like that one with the electrician where the craft landed in the middle of the road, and he was like, "Oh, it was humanoid, but it had a uniform on with a different emblem." I'm like, "Well, is that a time traveler? Is that a parallel
Yeah,
dimension
like
thing? Like what are we categorizing as aliens?" And I think where it ruins it for me is that everything that's unexplainable must be alien. And it's
yeah,
like,
and we
even down to like the beings under the earth with there's
yeah,
like, and it's like, okay, Lemurians, but they must be aliens. Like it's all becoming a bit hodgepodge.
it's
Like
like a
there's
circular
no,
reference in an
yeah,
Excel
yeah,
spreadsheet.
yeah,
Everything
yeah.
has to come back to whatever that person's belief system is.
Exactly. And I find that a lot of I remember going to this conference thing, and I cannot remember the guy's name for the life of me, but he was all about Ubuntu, which is like the African concept of the village, raising the village and being in community and self-sufficient and blah, 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 which is all very utopian, right? It's all utopian. And a lot of these alien theories is that the aliens are here for our greatest good, our highest good. They're making sure, you know, like showing up in times of war to deter warring and whatnot. And you know, there was even encounters where like a captain of a ship, like a naval ship, was sent down to the Antarctic on a military mission to establish a supposed base, and he entered into the bottom of the earth and found this crystalline city, and it was temperate and there was trees and everything, and there were humanoid beings down there, you know, but they weren't human, they were alien, and they were all worried about nuclear war because of the atomic bombs of Hiroshima just going off. Like they were concerned about, like there's always this, you know, that they're higher beings, they're here for our higher good, with, and it's always paired with the utopian belief of, yeah, this is
Either that or that we've been
concept.
shackled by them.
Yeah.
It's either utopian
Yep. Or
shackles.
we're petri dish. We are just an experiment that they're coming in to check on. And I'm like, none of it makes that much sense to me, admittedly. You know,
see, I get that. Like, I get that because I watch a lot of those, even just the one of, you know, Taronga Zoo. And we've got people to go in there, they monitor the animals, they check how they're going, they routinely do tests just to see how they're going.
Yeah.
We didn't create those animals. They're just animals that we're interested in. We're looking at all of the different things that are on Earth because, quite frankly, we say that it's because we want to save them and we want to help them, but we're usually looking at ways to help ourselves in terms of new medicines and different ways to understand things. But what do? We go in, then we sedate them. We take samples. We do probe them. We, you know, have a camera up one end and a camera up the other for their own benefit. But we do that.
We
so I can
do
imagine,
that. In that
so
sense, abductions make sense.
If I can get that, if I was an alien and I'm seeing these crazy ass things running around on this planet, I might want to know more about them. Especially if I am those creatures, like, and that's what I was trying to move back on before when you were talking about how they looked. We've seen what space does to people.
Yes.
Our own humans would not look human for very long.
Which corroborates with my sort of underlying theory belief that a lot of this alien thing is actually future human. Or it's
because
like timeline human. Because they look a lot
skinny.
like
we
us.
know they get taller.
Yeah. Gravity affects our skin. It affects our body structures, our internal organs, the way we think and communicate. So imagine being like 100 scenario where we've been thrown out into space because we've left Earth for the fact that we've destroyed it or something, which they keep trying to warn us about, like stay away from the nukes, guys. You know, we've had to go out to space, and it's been tens of thousands of years later, and we've evolved. We've got the tech to, you know, come back. Like, of course, that would make sense if we were trying to save our home planet then.
Yeah, and especially if we are such robust beings, they've turned into these skeleton people,
gangly things.
Yeah, and we're still, you know, wonderfully robust because we're, you know, living on Earth with the gravity that we were designed to live with. We're, you know, eating all of the, you know, the food. I can understand why they'd be sticking cameras up our butts to try to harness some of that, the health and vitality that we have. Like, I get that because I can't imagine.
And you know what's funny about that is, and it's always.
Look, I know you don't get health and vitality from someone's butt.
No, actually, side tangent. You can transplant microflora from your fecal matter
I've had
into
someone tell me
butt.
that.
They're doing studies on that. So you just
right.
throwing you out the water there.
But stand corrected. The probes make sense.
The probes make sense. They're trying to acclimatize the food again. So that's been solved. Fucking put that on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's it.
So, but coming back to topic, Like in that sense, it makes sense as a future human type thing. But
Yes.
I don't really align it with this whole one on the Anunnaki level where they've programmed us as slaves. I mean, who willingly leaves their slaves, and goes
Yeah, that's their
home,
coin. You've
a
invested
home
a lot
planet
of
that is
coin.
supposedly desolate because they believe that they come from the Biru, which is like supposedly on this elliptical fucking rotation through our solar system, and it's supposed to fly past Earth again in 2900, where they will come and see us and see how we're going, and and they're all like, are they going to be disappointed in us? So it's like, yeah, well, yeah, like where's all their gold we've been sucking off, but like,
yeah,
that side of the coin does not make much sense to me at all. But
yeah,
the petri dish thing does
makes
but
sense.
it only makes sense to me if they are us way in the future, or in a parallel or something like
see, I don't care if it's us because we're studying animals, so it seems to make sense that if you're a
that.
studier, you study everything around you. What I did find again when we're just talking about that, what are they? Those people.
The
I don't know.
Anunnaki.
Yeah. I was talking. There was someone who was like, and again, they talk about this as if it's proof of
Yes.
everything. And if you
Yeah.
look at like some list of kings or tablets of kings, and
Yeah.
I can come across and I can sound all learned because I've read the Emerald tablets and I've read the Sumerian texts and I've done this and I've done that. And if you
Yes.
look at the list of kings, you'll see that when you look at the Sumerian kings, they lived for a lot longer than we lived, right? So they've got really long lived. I had a look at this. I actually did have a look at this. We're talking, they're saying people, one of them, 28,800 years, another one, 36,000 years, another one, 43,200 years, another one, 21,000 years. Now, I'm not even going to bother doing all the quick maths of that, but that's a fucking shit ton of years.
Yeah.
They weren't all ruling at the same time because it's actually a list of kings. So even by that, it's saying that we've been from that date, just from those four kings, we're talking 100 and something thousand years. We've got no evidence that human beings have been ruling in that kind of way. But these things are said like absolute positive. And they say to me, and if you go look at the Turin list of kings, you'll see the same thing. And Methuselah in the Bible was said to have, lived for 400 to 900 years. Dudes, like, just so you know, having read it in a book that was written like however many years ago doesn't make it true. Like in 3,000,
Yes.
4,000 years time, all of these amazing books that I've recently bought from a book fair from my lovely people that I was sitting with, I'm going to actually give give them a plug, that I bought the other day.
Yeah.
That's not going to become true because when someone reads these 4,000 years from now,
Yeah.
everything doesn't turn from fiction into fact because of time.
Yeah.
So by just saying that, I read it there, and it proves, because if you look at the list of kings, well, the Sumerian kings lasted for 30,000 years.
Yeah.
Dude,
And we know culturally from
I
like
just gotta,
looking
I
at,
gotta go like a big sigh on that.
yeah, we know from culturally that the concept of immortality, especially for royalty, like even when you look at Egypt and things like that, and for leaders, that was a big thing. So even in that translation, it could be like, well, they lived for so many years because they lived for so many years in the hearts and minds of their people through
Yes,
monuments and things like that. Like, I think a lot of this stuff is taken way too literally to try to prove really outlandish points or theories that otherwise would have no substance unless you tried to connect fucking dot A with dot Z prematurely through all this zigzag of crap. Like,
it's just crazy.
it does not make sense. But so, I mean, where do we go from there? Like,
You know where we go? You go. You
fucking,
tell us where you're going to go, and I'm going to tell you where I'm going to go.
well, I know you're going to go to the maths, to the pyramids, to the monuments and things, and I'm probably going to go, right, archaeologically, this is what they think, and then
Okay,
compare and
let's go.
contrast.
Let's go head to head. I'm ready for it, Tay, because I've
Right.
got the maths here supporting
I
this.
gotta perk my antennas up.
Yeah, get them up.
I
I've already
gotta,
got
yeah, I gotta channel my inner Orion for this because,
I've got the golden spiral going on. So
yeah.
I've already got my mathematics hat on,
Alrighty.
so to speak.
Your cone head
So
is prepared to
now
funnel and receive that celestial
that the celestial
teaching
wisdom.
wisdom. Yeah.
Now, what I loved about looking into the pyramids, like we've all heard the pyramids, people rabbiting on about the crazy maths and all of that kind of stuff of it. But it does seem that if it was me, and I don't like the human word, I don't in any form, whether it's pictorial, cruciform, whatever the dickens it is, because it's open to too much interpretation. But maths is just solid maths. It doesn't change no matter what you do to it. So the pyramids, if you look at them as a blueprint, as something that might have been created purely to lock in some maths, some really important maths, you look at them in a slightly different view. So these things have been studied. I'm not even going to list all of the people that are studied, but there was an author who was Andrew Collins who suggests the pyramids are related to the idea of the music of the spheres. I just made a note of that because I liked the terminology, the music of the spheres, and I like the concept of these, underlying mathematics of things that brings everything together. That's just something that I resonate with. But then when I found out that past life regression on people had brought that back in, but I'll go back to it. Let's just go through the maths. Okay, now we've got pyramid structures found on every continent. They've been found underwater in jungles, Antarctica, Serbia, Bosnia. China apparently has 250 different pyramid type structures, all oriented north.
Yeah.
Obviously, all of the ones through Mexico.
Yep.
Okay, fine. We're going to focus just on the Pyramid of Giza.
Yep.
Some people say it's been built like a massive Faraday cage because it's not just made out of the one stone. It's been made out of granite, sandstone, limestone, and it was supposed to, some people theorize, use electromagnetic energy and gravity to produce power. So it effectively was this big power machine.
Yeah.
And that guy that I was talking about before, that Billy Carson guy who's really into this, and he can find a way to prove anything that he wants to prove. I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
They're saying that the water of the Nile obviously was much closer to the pyramids than it is now.
Yeah.
And they've got the limestone and a specific kind of rock that the base of the pyramid is made up of. And we all know that fast moving water actually creates, an electromagnetism. So the theory was there, it was like a battery, so that it took all of that energy up. Apparently at some point in times there were rods that went down there and all pointed it up towards the tip where it had the gold cap tip on it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all of the actual intricacies of the structure have gone. We don't have them anymore, but apparently if you look, you can find the channels where the rods were supposed to be made, blah, 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 blah. Now, a lot of you will go, well, that's just, we can see some channels that might prove something. It might prove nothing. It might be a pretty pattern.
Yeah.
It might be that I just like an in and out pattern that I've carved into the wall because I like the look of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean to know that. What I found was interesting was when they went into one of the chambers where you're supposed to just feel good and feel great about yourself. We were talking about in our hauntings episode where you have unusual activity. I was talking about it in that Romanian forest that they take up negative ion levels are very high. Now, I did not know, but negative ion levels are supposed to be promote really good health. It's got health benefits.
Yeah.
Which is where those Himalayan salt lamps are supposed to get there.
Yeah.
By producing the negative ions and all that kind of stuff. They have recorded levels in that room underneath the pyramid of 43,000 negative ion levels per cubic centimeter. And I went, well, that's a big number, but I don't know what that means. What it means is normally in a forest, you can get levels from 900 to 5,000. If you're near a waterfall or flowing water, you can get up to 10,000 negative ion levels per cubic centimeter. 43,000 is freaking huge. In a normal urban environment, it can drop down to as low as 150 per cubic centimeter. So we're talking a huge increase in the amount of energy activity that's sitting in that chamber. Okay, so I just want to make that really clear. And what can cause a big buildup of negative ion levels? Ultraviolet light, natural radioactivity of the earth, discharges of electricity, and splashing water. And every time a water particle bumps into another water particle, it creates negatively charged ions.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Does it prove anything? No, but it's a fun fact that I'm so glad that I found.
It sounds like to me in that way it could have been like an energy conduit, like
Exactly.
a generator of sorts. Obviously made out of all natural materials that you can find on Earth. And we know from what you just said in like the freaky forests and water and things like that, and with limestone and stuff, that these energies can naturally occur on our planet. So yes,
Absolutely.
It doesn't really occur to me that that's an extraterrestrial invention. But I think the question is, was it like a suggested invention? Like, did they go
on.
if you do this, then you can achieve this? You
Okay.
know?
So I'll go on. There's 2.3 million stone blocks that amounts to 6.2 million tons, which is in the Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah.
Giza. It was said to be built over a 10 to 20-year period if you're talking from an archaeological standpoint. But if you're talking about the alien theorists, they think it would have been done in a couple of years. It didn't take that long.
Yeah.
If you wanted to achieve that with the amount of stone blocks in there, that means there would have to have been a block placed every 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. The pyramids have been created to such a ridiculous degree of specificity and with such a clear design that you would have to beg to ask the question, why would you do that? Okay, so the Great Pyramids latitude location on Earth points out and it located precisely at 30 degrees, which is halfway between the equator and the North Pole. We all know that the pyramid is aligned to true north within a 3/60th of a degree of error, but we also know our true north shifts slightly. So there's some people putting forward that, it might have been 100% aligned. The interesting thing is most of the pyramids that have been created everywhere are aligned to north. There was something about aligning things to north that was big on what they wanted to do.
Well, we can even take that back to like Neolithic structures, right? We've got Göbekli Tepe, we've got Stonehenge, and even the stone circles of South Africa, which were believed to be corrals for animals and things, but geography wise and archaeologically, it doesn't make sense for them to be corrals. And at this conference that I went to eons ago about the Ubuntu stuff, they were actually talking about like Anunnaki and Nephilim and things, and they were it was that the theory is proposed that these circles were kind of like ancient crop circles, but they were built intentionally to be as like funnels into the earth to generate power and to help mine gold and resources and stuff for these aliens, because they couldn't get it on their home planet and that. But I mean, in a human sense, a lot of these monuments are built in the directions of the rising and the setting sun, and they mark out the solstice times. Stonehenge, notably for summer, winter solstice, there's been rituals surrounding that site since antiquity. And a lot of the pyramid structures are actually, when you map them out, they match constellations, and you can see certain movements of constellations from those positions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was looking into this because people use the concept of all of these amazing structures that have been built as proof positive of aliens. Now, because you brought up Stonehenge, I did look into Stonehenge. I looked in it a fair bit. It was supposed to have been constructed around 3000 BC to 2000 BC. It was done in stages. So there was an outer ring and then another ring, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, it is aligned with the solstices. It was a very, very precise and sophisticated means of understanding geometry and astrology. And it was, going to show that, how much our ancient builders knew at that point in time.
Yeah.
I've just got a point to note. What else was going on in and around Britain at 3000 BC? They had just started doing bronze objects at that time.
Yeah.
And their specialization in invention at that time was the wheel and the ox-drawn plow.
Yeah.
This is where I find it hard to believe. We're literally scrambling around with a wheel that we've just invented and an ox-drawn plow.
Yeah.
And we are moving 1 ton, like one of these things is 1 ton's worth of rock. They reckon a university in London wanted to prove that it was possible to actually move these bluestone and everything to Stonehenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said that it is possible to move a 1 ton piece of stone with 10 people on a wooden trackway. Like, it is possible to do. And it's possible that they had to grease the sleds and the stones up with pig fat.
Yeah.
To get them there. Now, this is the only thing I'm saying. We'll poo-poo the concept that someone came and helped us with this, but we have no problem with the concept that we're literally just working out what this round thing called a wheel is.
Yeah.
And we've only just now stopped ploughing the ground with a piece of rock to be able to put plants into the ground, but we are actually moving all of this ridiculous amount of weight, ridiculous distances, and we think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Who's planting the carrots? Who's literally putting the carrots and the potatoes in the ground where all of these people are dragging 1 ton rocks to do what?
Well,
to measure the stars, which we can do with a couple of sticks in the ground.
Well, did you know that there are actually a shit ton of people buried at Stonehenge? It is one of the largest burial sites in Britain.
I do, because I was investigating it.
Yeah.
And I actually also know that its calendar was so remarkable that once again, they were able to get the 365.25 solar year in their adjustments. Like, we didn't correct that till way after. I've got the date of when that was corrected.
So there's competing theories here, right? Competing theories.
Give me one that makes sense, please.
One, they could have just dosed up on some shrooms and fucking sorted their shit out and went, we need an evolutionary power up. Let's go drink some reindeer piss. 2, the ancient aliens came through. And if you're talking Britons, you're talking Gaelic aliens, right? To Arthur de Danann, all them folks, fucking Kernos, coming down in their ships and being like, there's a much easier way to do this, guys. How about we help you? But it was funny, I was watching the ancient aliens thing, and there was like an island somewhere in the Philippines or whatever where they believed that they were using electromagnetic something or other to do with gravity, and that they were just throwing these massive long stone log things to build like a pyramid on this island across this massive river, like, because no one would be able to do that.
And that's come up in a few places, both around Stonehenge, around and I find it sort of like, we know it doesn't make any sense.
But then,
like, we can, archaeologists can talk to their blue and the
theory 3, it was the giant hybrids.
Again, of which we have no archaeological evidence that they existed.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if I'm an archaeologist, right? And this is what I do, and I only believe in the facts of a situation.
Yeah.
How am I explaining that? Like, in real terms, look, we've tried it. We've got a whole bunch of really well-fed young men to pull one block.
Yeah.
These things are made out of so many blocks, it's ridiculous. 2.3 million stone blocks.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that if you're saying that's the pyramid, not Stonehenge. But really, how did we do it? Oh, we did it with some wood and we greased it up with pig fat. And then we were just, it was easy as, like, it just slid on by.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a theory, people.
Well, you would have to assume that on a technological level, we would be, in the instance of ancient Egyptians and stuff like that, you know, we've got levees, pulleys, all that type of scaffolding, all that type of infrastructure, the stuff that we use today to build these monuments. But again, I think the thing is, how did we get to that point to know that that would work?
But even when
like, who gave us the idea?
But even
Was
that's
it
been
us?
debunked, eh? That's even been debunked. Like we've done that and we've said, oh, it really is possible if we move 7,000 million tons of earth to make a ramp that we have to keep repack. We're pulling up. These blocks are huge. And my dad was a landscape gardener.
Yeah.
And when you build up earth, it compacts quickly. And the more you have, the quicker it compacts.
Yeah.
You've got these blocks that have been cut to a precision that is beyond that we can understand. These were not being done with someone there they're putting forward that the even the Stonehenge, but that they basically banged the shit out of the stone.
Yeah.
And then they sat there and buffed it.
Yeah.
Like they used something to buff it to get that level of precision. And again, my dad worked with bluestone and sandstone, and he used a diamond cutting blade.
That's what I would think. I think of like when people polish crystals and shit like that, like
How long that would take?
Diamond buffing. And if you don't have power tools,
it's just not. It doesn't make any sense. Like even if you say you're going to use water, high-powered water, how high-powered that water would have to be able to cut it. Like, come on, people. So you don't want to believe that there was ancient stuff in the pyramid that was taken away because why isn't there evidence of it? But there's absolutely no evidence of any of these tools that were used to create these blocks. But we're going to go, it's okay for them to disappear, but it's not okay for the other stuff to disappear. Because that makes sense to us, but that one doesn't. Like, I just, having been around stone all of my life and knowing how hard it is to work with, and my dad was a master at his craft. And it's just not possible. But anyway, they're all perfectly aligned to north. Okay. There's one thing that says about it being in the center of the Earth's landmass. And the way they do that is if you pass a circle through the cardinal and the ordinal points of the pyramid and you run them all down and then you come back, it hits more landmass than it possibly could if you put it anywhere else. Showing that this pyramid, the Great Pyramid, is literally right on the spot being the center of the Earth's landmass. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I really didn't know what that meant. So I was like, okay, I'm sure I could find 7 other places on Earth that I could put something and I'd hit a lot of Earth if I did this circle thing. So that didn't say so much to me. But this did say a lot. The pyramid is used, the unit of measurement of a pyramid is a cubit. And if you actually look at what a cubit is, it is 1/25 millionth of the distance between the North Pole to the South Pole. Not 1/25, 372, 507 of one. It's 1/25 millionth of the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole. We've still got America running on inches. Yet we've got a culture here that is somehow running on a measurement system that equals the distance, not through rounding, not that, if I want to make this maths fit, I can make it fit. A cubit is 1/25 millionth distance.
They did have a very precise ruler measurement on how they built the tombs and stuff like that. Like I was watching a documentary.
That would have to be, not only would you have to have...
I was watching a documentary the other night where they literally used red ochre on the tips of their fingertips to precisely measure out these cuttings and things like that to get like the beautiful 90-degree angles of the inners of the tombs and stuff.
I get that, but how did you get the original measurement of what 1 cubit was? How did you work out what? Okay, we know through triangulation we can work this shit out. But still, like, come on. I'm just saying, come on. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm still going with the theory
It
that I
was
think it's a
Toth.
exactly.
It
In
was
my
Toth,
mind,
Brenda Toth.
in my mind, it is a blueprint. So you've got something that shows where the center of the Earth's mass is. You've got something that is lined to true north. You've got something that tells you how big the Earth is precisely. If you measure the pyramid, and it's called the mean socket level, which means corner to corner at a certain measurement, it comes to 365.242 cubits.
Yeah.
Which is the tropical year down to the quarter day.
Yeah.
Right, which is the same thing we see in Stonehenge.
Yeah.
The Julian calendar did not shift to the Gregorian calendar, 45 BCE and 1582 CE. These things were 3,000 years before it, and we couldn't get the date that they had. They were ahead of their time in terms of, the Romans and the Greeks, in terms of being absolutely crazy with their astrology.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it right, but these guys have gotten it right down to the decimal point.
Yeah.
Okay. Its height is equal to pi. We've got it that it's the center of the Earth's mass. I've got a note here saying its slope angle is 51 degrees. And I know that repeats in other pyramids around the world.
Yeah.
But I literally have forgotten to write down why 51 degrees is important. So sorry about that, everyone. But this is the one that's sort of like I go. So if you take the length and the width of the pyramid, which is not identical, by the way, everybody, it's not a perfect square there, and you scale it up. I had a graphic to show you for this. I had a stress ball that was the shape of the Earth. So imagine that there.
Yeah.
And I had a pyramid. And effectively what it means, if you scale up the pyramid, it perfectly measures the distance between north to the equator.
Yeah.
And it perfectly measures the distance of the diameter of the equator.
Yeah.
Right? So what? Now, okay. Does that sound that doesn't sound that great to you, obviously, Taylor. I was expecting you to go, that's fucking crazy.
I'm just listening, and I think it is pretty incredible that even our ancients were like mapping out the world and using it to gauge their position using the stars, and
I wish I had my
equational accuracy and quite sophisticated building, even
quite sophisticated.
Neolithic. I know. I can see.
Hang on.
It's quite sophisticated.
Look, that's the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
I just happen to have one that I made. It's actually a hat, but right. And we've got. Let me give you something round. Let's go with this. Some of this. That's the thing. Yeah. It's basically if I was to get this far enough, which way does it have to go? They're two wrong sizes. But when you get it, it's scaled up by the number of 43,200.
Yeah.
Not 43,704.729. It's a very, very precise number.
It's very precise, yeah.
I can't believe
precise.
This is like I can't believe anyone.
I'm just thinking about the similarities.
I can't wrap a Christmas present. Literally, and Kirsten and I are like the queens of wrapping Christmas presents, and we make it like we really go to a lot of trouble to get them perfect. And sometimes if that box that you're wrapping is just a little bit off, you can't get your beautiful corners to fold in. They just don't fold in right.
I'm not the best wrapper. I just sort of fucking do my best, and that's that.
This is crazy.
So I would have made a really shit ancient Egyptian architect.
This is really crazy.
Alien architect. My face does not convey my inner world. My inner world is contemplating all of that and transcribing it to like the Peruvian pyramids and stuff like that.
Which have got their own same freaking mass.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm like. So we've got everyone that lived on this earth, effectively, at that time, was so fucking highly advanced that they knew the exact movement of the sun and the stars in the sky, and they could align everything. Now, the only one I can really get is north, but if these things aren't lined up to magnetic north,
Mm.
they're lined up to true north.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not as if they all had a little cup and they put like a little bit of lead in it and they go, oh, yep,
And they,
pointing
and
in
they
that direction.
measured. Yeah.
It's not magnetic north that they're lined up to, it's true north. So no, it's not as simple as that. Now, 43,200 is not a random number. It represents the axial precession of the Earth, or the way the Earth wobbles on its axis. 43,200 is a multiple of 72. It's actually 600 multiple, which is the number of years it takes for 1 degree of that wobble. So 72 is this freaking magic number.
Yeah.
72 also represents the time it takes for the zodiac constellations to shift by 1 degree. So
Yeah, see,
if you look,
mapping the stars, yeah.
mapping the stars. Astrologers who studied these celestial movements believe the 72-year cycle influenced the transition from one era to another, marking significant shifts in global consciousness and collective evolution, right? Either way, like I have no problem with the correlation with they were the mapping the stars.
Yeah.
I'm 100% behind that. But to map that with that precision,
yeah,
that would mean, right, every single one of these 2.3 million stone blocks was cut to perfection.
Yeah.
I make cookies every year at Christmas time. I can't cut 10 precisely, and I've got a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we think it makes sense that we can just say, oh, they were skilled artisans, like they were really skilled builders, and they were able to do it through their skill.
Yeah.
I'll actually point out this number 72. A lot of people use this for woo-woo. Is that it means there's a lot of references to 72 in biblical texts and around the world. You know, the amount of names that God has in the Jewish Kabbalah.
Yeah.
The number of languages spoken at the Tower of Babel.
Babel. Yeah.
Is it Babel? Yeah.
Babel, yeah.
The number of temples at Angkor Wat. The number of degrees longitude between Angkor Wat and the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
So they're actually aligned between each other. People are saying there's actually 432,000 syllables in the Hindu Rig Veda.
Yeah.
And 432 hertz is also the harmonic frequency believed to be the optimal resonance for music.
Right.
Now, this was interesting because actually that 432 hertz was actually what everyone agreed was the optimum hertz for, transmitting music, until apparently radios came out, and then governments came in and decided to change it to, I think, 440 something. And there's conspiracy theories that are saying the reason that was changed was to fuck with our minds. Just saying.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, we've got our tinfoil, so
we've got our tinfoil, so we're protected from all that kind of. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of mass, and there's a lot of mass that I was unable to get because I put shitty notes down, and I just thought that I would remember what 51 degrees meant, and for the life of me, I can't remember. But even in itself, that's crazy. It's also in amongst it when they did the mathematics, because obviously the pyramid has always been viewed as a four-sided shape.
Yeah.
But when they actually studied it with, footage from above and all that kind of stuff, it's got a slight concavity in the wall. So they're actually like an 8-sided shape.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at that and analyzing the numbers, crazy numbers like the golden ratio start popping out of the pyramid as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I think I'm pretty confident if I get any shape that I've perfectly constructed, whether it's a circle or an equilateral triangle or whatever I do, if I put enough perfect shapes into something, it's going to spit out all of these magical universal constants.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? They're universal constants for a reason.
Yeah.
They appear in everything. They appear in a leaf, right? And I don't think anyone's going to start saying that the aliens
made leaves.
Yeah. So we know these constant numbers can come up everywhere, but I still think the rest of it, even if you remove the fact of how they did it, how did you get the numbers so right? That's the thing that I can't get my head around. How did you get the numbers so right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
And which I think, which everyone will be like, it was aliens. It was someone beyond us who helped us with that. Or maybe it was future human people turned alien who knew all this stuff already, who came back and then gave them the knowledge. Maybe it was channeled wisdom from ancient aliens, deities, whoever you believe in. Maybe it was the Atlanteans. Maybe it was Thoth. Maybe it was Lemurians. Like, I think that the obvious mystery is we believe that at that point in time we were not capable of that level of precision and thinking physically.
I don't think we'd be able to make it now.
No, not
I think,
without
honestly,
some slight margin of error or metal powered tools or anything. I mean, look at the crystal example. Like, no crystal pyramid that is carved and shaped is ever perfect using a diamond washer, saw or anything.
Yeah.
So it's that mystery of where did that knowledge come from. And I think I was talking to Tim about this because I was like, oh, Petra's lined you up for some research on this, and he's got a pretty solid opinion on the whole aliens. And he says, and I hate it because they ruined aliens for me. I actually love space aliens. I wish we were Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
And which brings a good premise. Like, why y'all interfering? Like, don't y'all have a code? But it was like, he argues that they came down and all they gave us, to quote him, was copper smelting, and working with stone. And that was something like I pre-said. I was like, if they were so technologically advanced, right? They came down, they genetically modified us to be the perfect working race for mining gold and things, and then they were showing us all these mysteries and whatnot. Why were we still building with earth-based materials? Like, why isn't it more technologically it's advanced materials and things like that? I think, and it comes to how we view aliens, like if they're flying around in spaceships and whatnot, why is the infrastructure that they're trying to make not replicating that?
Because I actually have a theory for this.
Yeah.
And my theory for this is the same as my theory with the Sumerian tablets and all that kind of stuff. I really do believe all of this stuff have hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
Having recently read some of it, and it is a slog. Like, it is a slog. It's hard work. And if you get anything out of it at the end, you've earned it.
Yeah.
You've earned the enlightenment.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people maybe that's not ready for the message or whatever it is, will give up on that pretty quickly because they need they want the York Notes version.
Yeah.
Right. But true knowledge comes through earning it. So that's why I think that the pyramids were whoever. Quite frankly, I don't care who it was. It could have been, like we've said. I do believe humanity is going to go through peaks and troughs where we do have golden ages. Some of the things we're talking about now, and I'm just thinking, are we getting dumber? Like, are we all of a sudden getting dumber? Like, I do think this, and I don't mean this to be a criticism to all of the people out there. I really don't. But
no, but when you want to build like 4 nuclear power plants across Australia, knowing full well it could turn into fucking Chernobyl, I think that's pretty stupid.
Well,
like, there are other solutions.
There are other solutions, but the discussion that we have around it is not an intelligent discussion.
No.
Putting forward a photograph of a fish with 3 eyes on it, it does not prove anyone's argument. So I think we are just so used to having
the conversations aren't happening.
They're
not happening. 2, the conversations that are happening, led by people who have no backing, have no empirical evidence or whatever,
no critical thinking skills,
and they're no critical thinking, and it's agendaed, so it's set bias to prove how this will be beneficial and most likely monetarily wise. If we do this, it will do this, and it's like, well, okay, that's great short term, but are you thinking about the future?
Exactly.
For God's sake, I think when you are rattling off, and I'd say rattling just because it was a lot of math, it's a lot to take in. My face was probably just like so many fucking numbers, mate.
I wanted this. I wanted this. I hope someone
yeah,
out there
it was
send me photos. If anyone listens to it,
internal.
I want an instant react where people go,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness, Petra, isn't
Yeah.
that?" But anyway,
it was internal, trust me. But
it,
I'm thinking about all of that, and I'm like, that's so much knowledge and skill and
yes,
technology that we lost because a few fanaticals decided that that was not the way forward. And
exactly.
that's what we're experiencing now.
I
We've
think
got
so,
this
and that's
ethos
why.
of change wanting to come through. We want to be better, we want to eat better, we want to do better, we want to advance ourselves that's more aligned with the benefits of us as a
Yep.
species and the planet. And then we've got this other side that's just fight, fight, fight. No, no, no. Okay, but it must be this. And it's a real dinosaur fucking thought process,
Process. Yeah,
And that's an insult to
I'm bigger than you,
dinosaurs.
so I can eat you.
Exactly. And I think, and leading back into aliens, that's why I think we have this sort of really inherent belief or desire or need to have someone else come in and advocate on our
Yeah.
behalf.
See that.
Like, granddaddy aliens, come down and tell these
Nah,
motherfuckers to stop making nuclear power plants,
and that's what my answer would be to Tim. I think these have been blueprints. I
Yeah.
think there is so much information in there because you've got to understand we're only recognizing the numbers that we've now uncovered. Like
Mm.
we've recognized those constants, we've recognized pi and phi and all of the different numbers.
Yeah.
We recognize them because we know about them. How
But
many
back
other
then,
numbers are in there that we just don't know their power yet?
Mm.
And it's like, do numbers have power? Well, fuck yeah, they do.
Mm.
Like Pythagoras showed us that. We're
Yeah.
using all
Yeah.
of that mathematics to
Yeah.
do GPS tracking.
Yeah.
Like it's all of this stuff. So I think if we look at these structures that don't make any sense, I don't care where the knowledge came from. I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, but I truly do believe there's a lot of answers within them.
Mm.
Don't care about how to make another pyramid because we've shown that after they made the first one and we tried to make other pyramids,
Well,
they
that's it.
didn't,
It's like
their accuracy went down. We were like, oh, I'll give
yeah,
you a pass, but
we've got the
you're not getting an A plus
baseline.
plus for that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Once it's there and it's unlocked, you can go from there.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Just the someone to sort of lay out, like as you say, the blueprint or translation.
Yeah.
I mean, is that ancient aliens or is it something else? We won't fucking know because
We
there's
will not know.
we will not know. There's no archaeological evidence here or there to support otherwise. All we have is what we can work with, and until we get some fucking time traveling alien whatever
The one
to,
thing I will
to reveal.
yeah, the one thing I will point out is that because obviously they've said that there's pyramids all around the earth.
Mm,
One of the theories were that and as you said that they were energy conduits, that
yeah.
you can get that they would be energy conduits.
Mm,
There's one thing that the reason that they were aligned and placed where they were and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there is some alignment to Orion. And it's so funny because people who debunk that theory debunk it on the fact that you would have to flip the stars over.
yeah.
And I'm just like, what? So you look at it from how it is in outer space rather than you look at it how
Yeah.
it is from down here. Like, are you serious? Like, you don't think it maps up anymore because it might be flipped and whatever.
Yeah.
But they do go with the alignment and the placement was to release pressure in the earth, which would reduce earthquakes, etc., and also be a way of storing that kind of energy. And there's so many people that are theorizing that there is
Mm,
so much kinetic energy in the Earth's movement, the tectonic plates, and all of that kind of stuff, magnetic
yeah.
energy, all of that kind of shit, is that's how they were created. They were created to release that, and obviously they're not functioning anymore because they're not functioning because of all of their
Yeah.
workings has been taken out of them. Um, and that's why we might get ourselves into a little bit of trouble again. But I found it really interesting. I think conceptually,
Mm,
I think there's a lot of better ways to do energy. We're going to find later on that, the logic to me of hydrogen energy makes so much more sense to me than nuclear.
yeah.
Like it just really does. but I'm not a scientist, so what the hell do I know? But
And going back to UFOs, it's funny because a lot of the sightings and stuff as well in recent times have been around nuclear sites or sites of high level radiation. And then we've got people who have like abduction experiences going to get checked out for symptoms of radiation and things like that. And for what we know from like outer space, being exposed to intergalactic radiation, like that's going to have some fucking significant health effects. So that's interesting with the whole that we've come around to nuclear and how, you know.
Exactly.
Oh, now I'm just sitting here thinking maybe they're hanging around the nuclear sites because they're trying to figure out better ways to deal with radiation in space so that they don't.
Yeah, and like these
humanoid frog.
These humanoids are creating little things that we can test our theories.
Yeah.
And keep ourselves relatively safe.
Yeah.
So we're going to go there and we're going to give ourselves a mild dose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that we can see how and then we're going to get the microbacteria that we pulled out of someone's butt.
And so we can adjust to eating normal food.
Oh, it's all golden.
Fucking hilarious. Oh my God. I think we're going to have to just stop because we're nearly like, this is going to be a long ass episode. And if y'all have held on this far, thank you for being here.
Well, it's fun though.
Fun. Yeah.
All righty. What are we doing next week?
I know this one. Next week we're doing past lives and the Akashic records.
We are. Is that going to be easier or harder than this? This was a big topic.
Look, if we just water it down to base level blog research, I think Akashic records will knock it out of the park. If we actually do some fucking looking and searching and deep diving, we're going to end up in the same situation we always do and just rabbit hole the shit out of that. We're going to wormhole the shit out of that.
We are.
Maybe that's what the big asshole wormhole in space is doing. Just taking a giant probe and...
and the sound effects in the background were perfect for that. Because we all know probing wouldn't be easy.
No.
Not for the person receiving said probe, nor for the person doing the probe.
Person doing it.
No wonder they've got a spacesuit on.
Literally, hazmat. Oh, goodness.
So what happened to Fluffkins?
Fluffkins. I don't even know, man. I don't even know if Fluffkins is like human anymore or if he's just an alien, like a projected cat that's actually an alien trying to tell us the secrets of the universe in a way we will understand, and we're just like, shut the fuck up, Fluffkins. If I want irregular cookies, I will make irregular shaped cookies, all right? Not everything has to be fucking 72 pi. So remember, curiosity may have killed the cat.
I'm just wondering. I'm going to go to the dog food bag and see if there's 43,200 biscuits per bag.
Literally. And if it's perfectly circular, like
I think the tinfoil get to my brain.
It is. We're gonna have to take it off in a minute. This is how conspiracy crazy happens. Their curiosity may have killed a few cats because fucking should not have tried to lift up so many basalt blocks with shitty ass pulleys and levies. The aliens told us to use the fucking gravity EMF fucking lifters, and it just classic antiquity work health safety did not listen. So he may have got squashed, but there is no growth in ignorant bliss. So now he knows for next time. He's got
to lube himself up with pig fat. He can slip
and
one out from
lube it up with pig fat first, then pull it on the EMF gravity fucking levy bullshit and put it in said place as the aliens directed.
Golden.
Yeah. Done. Fucking
done. That was fun.
Done.
All right.
We will see you all next time.